Okay, so welcome back. It's about an hour after the Palace game. We've all seen it in one way or another. I watched it on a stream. Tiz, how'd you see it?
Listening to the radio, the
Nice,
beautiful
Mikey.
voices of. Oh no,
I didn't.
Okay, so
I-
taking the usual Jamie role in this. Jamie, how'd you see
Well,
it?
you leave it out, man. I followed it on Twitter. I
Oh,
followed it on highlights.
Okay, on
And
highlights.
Say, welcome back, Jamie Allen, after
Yeah.
2 cast absence.
Yeah, people were rejoicing, but yeah, you're back.
Busy.
Jamie's there.
I've basically been producing a film at the moment.
Brilliant.
I think it's a nightmare, but it's fine. It's nearly done.
Wait,
No,
did any of us? Did any of us ask?
Did anyone?
I'm just explaining my absence for
Yeah.
all our
Oh,
fans.
it's
out
fair
there.
enough.
Don't
It's
worry,
fair
back,
enough.
Jamie. I'm
Get it back
interested,
to the
mate.
same.
Don't
We,
worry.
we enjoyed the 2-0 win all in one ways or another. Whether you watched the highlights, whether you watched it way through, it doesn't matter. We all watched the 2-0 win up at Palace. What's your immediate reaction, guys? How are you feeling?
Well, my cousin's a Palace fan, so I'm rubbing it in his face at the moment.
Right, okay.
Really enjoying it.
It's always nice.
Mike Tiz, how are you celebrating tonight?
I'm going to bed.
Okay, but how are you feeling then? Come on, boys. I know it's late, but you can stick with me here. How it's exciting, isn't it? We almost brushed Palace aside.
Oh,
From.
it was a great game. We played so well. It was a good comeback, especially after the 2-0 up. The 2-0 lead we had against Wolverhampton and we ended up losing. Yeah, it's a good game.
And I mean, you look at the predictions we gave. Tiz gave a 1-0. Mikey
I
gave
gave 2-0.
You weren't there. I gave a 2-1. We all went for winning predictions, but in reality, if you go and listen to the preview podcast, which is the episode before, we seem quite conservative and a little bit worried about it, even though we did give quite positive predictions. But it was the perfect bounce back from the defeat against Wolves. What do you reckon changed and how? What was the driving forces behind that change today?
I think it's just that the team were in such high spirits, the great form we've had.
Yeah.
And there's this one blip we had against Wolves, they weren't happy about it 'cause they know they're better than that. They know they can achieve higher things.
Yeah.
And just like they showed that today.
Yeah. You guys?
I think Ollie's hatred of Cedric has now actually come about because he got injured halfway through that game, and we performed better without him. So there you go. It's just logic.
Well,
Like,
what it
Ward-Prowse
did
is a
allow,
right back.
yeah, what it did allow is for Ward-Prowse to become directly involved in marking Zaha. Now that was probably the most entertaining part of the game, I thought. I mean, in the second half especially, you could see we were doubling up on Zaha, but what it allowed us to do was, see Ward-Prowse and Zaha go at it, and Ward-Prowse came out on tops today. Like he showed that he had that determination, but he wasn't silly with it. He didn't let it take over his game.
It's because he knows he's rent free.
Yeah, he's rent free. He had that determination without trying to be stupid with it and taking over his whole game, and did get underneath Zaha's skin. An interesting at half time, a little bit of a kerfuffle with them as well. But hey, Ward-Prowse again comes up tops again and becoming a little bit of a hate figure for the Crystal Palace fans.
You love to see it.
You do. You just love to see it. So yeah, what else were you guys happy to see with today?
Redder's in good form.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, goal and assist for him today. But really dangerous. I think he was primarily on that left, but yeah, looked really dangerous and back to that form that we know he can get into, running at defenders, which he's best at. Go on.
One thing I'd like to add is it shows that we're not a one-man team with Danny Ings on the bench today. That we still had a very good game, still a very good fight in there.
Very true, very true.
Games that we played without Danny Ings in the last couple of months, 100% win rate. So again, another one. No Cedric, no Ings. Start winning games.
Yeah, Tiz, what caught your eye today?
What caught my eyes that we didn't massively rotate the team, but I saw before the game, fans were on Twitter, this is going to be a 3-0 loss. He's starting Vestergaard, he's not starting Ings. And I'm glad that we put it in their faces in a weird way that even if we've been on a fantastic run, only one loss in the last 7, so the Southampton Twitter still find a way to be negative and still find a way that we're going to lose the game. But thankfully, we won 2-0. The players that came in, apart from maybe one shaky mistake that Vestergaard that could have cost us the game, the people that came in had a fantastic game.
Yeah. It seemed quite, and we have looked very good away from home. I've said it before, the fact that we almost seem like an away team at parts. The fact that we can go away and create that pressure and the counter-attacking football works brilliantly for that style. But to still score 2 brilliant goals against Palace was a credit to the players, and they took their chances extremely well. I mean, we can.
Palace away is never an easy game. Any team will say that. Their home crowds are unbelievable. We're just very lucky to it.
Yeah.
Not lucky, we played well. We showed the resilience, that determination.
Yeah, and I can't give you the specific stats, but I know that Palace are up there with a very good defensive side. I
think they've only lost 3 at home this season. They've only conceded 10 in the league at home overall, but also I think that they've only scored 10 at home as well. So it's a bit of both in that sort of aspects. But yeah, when we went, we just controlled the entire game. Yes, they're not quite as good as Wolves, and that's why we probably controlled it and kept that 2-0 lead. But we never felt, apart from the chance that it was 0-0 with Czech Toast, we'll get on a bit later, we never felt, or I never felt at least, that they're going to get back in the game. Don't get me wrong, there's still always a chance, because at 2-0, you've seen the Everton game, there's still a big chance that they could come back into it. But they never had that feeling of the players were concerned.
It's just our, I don't know. It's our away performance is just amazing. If it was the Premier League was just based on away games, we'd be in 5th position and only 2 points off 3rd position as well.
Yeah,
it really shows.
So maybe they should change the rules.
Get the phone.
I mean, if it was home performances, mate, we'd be rock bottom of the league.
Talking about league positions as well, Jambo. We're on the same. I think the same points we're on at the moment. Last time we were on that point, at this point, we finished 6th, I think it was that season. I don't know. That's quite a weird way to put it, but I think that must have been the Koeman season when we had. How many are we on now? 30. We've got to be 30, isn't we? 30.
31.
31.
We've gone above. We've gone above Palace now, and now we've equalled the amount of wins that we had in the entirety of last season as well.
Hey!
Yeah, so the Koeman, 24 games played, 31 points. We finished 6th that season. So you look at it, you've got to look at it positively and say it's a brilliant result, and it's proved we can bounce back. The one thing that concerned me was the fact that we were seeing the issues that we had previously of throwing away games in a leading position. And I was thinking, oh no, let's hope we're not having a regression here and we can keep on going and keep on with this great form. We saw that today. That's a real positive to take from this game. The fact that one slight blip didn't bother them, and they still went and played their game. They still played the same tactic. They still played in the same way, same confidence, and we came out of the result as well. And that's a credit to the players, because they stuck with it. They got round it, and they wanted to prove themselves as well. The confidence, I don't think, looked like they dropped. If anything, they looked happy to go out there and prove a point. And yeah, that probably is a big factor in why we came out with 3 points today. Cool. So yeah, anyone ever got any initial other thoughts that we can hit through them? We can go through the game one by one.
Mikey?
Go on, Mikey.
I'm gonna take a little bit of a sit back, relax start to this podcast. Let you guys talk, because in all honesty, I don't really know what happened in that game. I got to the 20th minute in the car, turned off the radio, looked at my phone, Redmond had scored. It was one of those days. So I just thought, nah, it's fine. The only chance I actually heard was Czech Tosson's miss from Vestergaard's mistake, and from that you're thinking, it's probably not going to be a good day.
Yeah, but you can still give it. You can still say how. I mean, you've got to be pretty pleased the fact that we saw that bounce back from Wolves in a short period of time. 2 points.
It's always a little bit like, it was always going to be interesting to see how we bounce back from a defeat, because we haven't had one for like 6-7 games. So it was always going to be interesting to see if we would regress or like try and progress from that. And it's nice to see that we are trying to progress from defeats, trying to get still playing with confidence even when we lose. So I think that Wolves game, it wasn't just down to the fact that we didn't play well, because we didn't play as well as in the first half we did in the second half, but it wasn't just down to our performance that we lost that game. So it's nice to see the players have brought their confidence. Ward-Prowse, I was a little bit worried about getting sending off, because he does like to put in a good tackle in on Zaha. But yeah, apart from that, it was a fantastic game.
I mean, I'm looking...
Especially with a rotated squad too, with Vestergaard coming in, not playing for a little while since the FA Cup.
Early injury.
Play at right back. It'll be interesting to see if we do make movements now in the January, just in case we might need another right back to fill in.
So I'm looking at the stats now, and I can't quite believe it. I know we played really well, but I didn't think the stats would back us up that much as well. Palace not having a shot on target today.
No,
only having 6 shots, and we had 15 in total.
they
6
didn't have a corner either.
didn't have a
So-
corner, no. We had better pass accuracy, had more passes, had 57% possession to their 43. You look at that and you think that's probably a home. You're looking at that and said, right, it was the home team. You're probably thinking, us dominating all things. But we take such a presence to away games, and it's really amazing to see how well this tactic worked away from home. It's 4 successive wins on the bounce now away from home, and you got to say how long is this going to keep going for? Because it's brilliant so far. Our form picked up when we started picking up points away from home, and it's continuing to do well away from home as well. So, hey, I'm happy with it. Long may it continue.
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh, there we go. What do you want to go into now? We've had our overall
Team
thoughts on that.
sheets. Should we
Go
look
for
at
it,
the team sheets? So at 6:30, when it was announced that Danny Ings wasn't going to start the game and Vestergaard was going to come in for the injured Jan Bednarek, what are your thoughts?
I was happy because I took off my captaincy of Danny Ings.
Just about fantasy, not a football fan, not a Saints fan.
But in all seriousness, I was glad to see him rested because like Ralph even mentioned a few weeks ago, the Harry Kane injury that was due to lots of games and stress on the muscle. So I'm glad to see him being rested. And plus, I do like seeing Obafemi playing up front. It's nice to see the partnerships he's progressing with Shane Long and Shadams as well. I don't know. And I don't really have a negative opinion on Yannick Vestergaard, like most Saints fans do. Wasn't too worried him coming to the game. However, like I said, there was that one mistake he had. That's what I can say, really.
Yeah. Well, when I saw it come out, 2 things hit me, and we mentioned it together when we were off mic. It shows the pecking order and who he relies on next. It's interesting to see that Danso is not in the equation when the player
Not even
dropped
on
out.
the bench.
No, and we saw Vestergaard come in, which kind of shows you who's next in line, who he believes is the right player to step in. Che Adams, again, not starting, not given that chance. Obafemi rewarded with his promising features that he's had so far in the season. So he's joined again and gone up front with Long. We knew Long was going to pretty much stay there because he's that target man, the outball we go over a lot of times. But yeah, Obafemi and Vestergaard. Were you surprised at these 2 coming in, or did you think these were the logical players to come in with rotation?
Because Vestergaard has been the one that has been making it onto the bench for most games, so I was thinking that he would probably be the one to be put on the bench. Would he be the one that most Saint fans wanted in? Probably not. I think a lot of people wanted to see Danso, but the thing is, if Danso's not even making it when one of our first choice centre backs are out, then he's obviously not good enough for it. And it definitely was interesting to see that Adams isn't getting a sniff at starting at the moment. Danso isn't having a sniff either, so it would be interesting to see how we start the next game as well, whether Vestergaard keeps his place because of that mistake, but I don't know how he played for the rest of the game. I didn't hear anything on it on Twitter or anything like that, so I think he had a fine game for the rest of it, so I'll be happy for him to start in the next game too.
And it'll be also... go on, Tiz.
Huh?
Go on,
It wasn't me.
Go.
Okay, it wasn't me that said that, but I'll say that
Okay.
when Vestergaard came in, I was a bit concerned because I know that he likes to ponder on the ball, and that was my concern. And at 0-0 when Czech Tosin got that chance 1-on-1 and probably should have at least got it on target. That was my point proven, and I was happy to see Obafemi, but also at the same time, it was interesting, like Mikey said, to see that Adams, wasn't starting either. So it's an interesting one in that way. But apart from that mistake, Vestergaard didn't do anything wrong, so I guess it was correct that they selected him. We got a clean sheet. So, to be fair, it's good to see. And that's the sort of thing that now it's back-to-back wins where Danny Ings hasn't started. Well, when he hasn't started, we've won 2-0. Like I said earlier, fans, don't just write off the game instantly when Danny Ings doesn't start. Trust the strike partnership that starts. Because even if they don't score, we've got players that can. It's not just Danny Ings that can score.
Nathan Redwood and Stuart Armstrong.
Oh, it's brilliant.
You ruined it.
If people
They're not going to listen to the rest of it now.
No, we can talk through those later. But finally, just on the lineups, we've got an FA Cup game coming up as well, Saturday, Tottenham at home. How do you reckon the lineup changed? Do you keep the same side that won, or do you bring in players that possibly, if Bednarek is fit for the game, do you bring him back in, or do you reward Vestergaard He got a clean sheet away from home. Does he stay in the side for the FA Cup game?
I mean, I
No,
found
yeah.
it quite. Sorry to cut you off.
go.
I thought you're finishing up. I found it quite interesting to see that Ralph is focused on having Danny into the Tottenham game. It really shows he wants to push in the cup. I'd argue, which is surprising. It managed in the past. They see with a higher, like a traditional top 6 side, they probably wouldn't put as much strike force into that side. Whereas I like the confidence from Ralph resting Danny for this game so he can start the next.
Yeah.
In contrast, I don't think he necessarily rested Ings. I think Ings just couldn't start because of his injury worries. I think if it was a week later and then you had the next Tottenham game, I think he still would have started. I just think because of his injury history, and you've seen from Rashford when he started after he's had a possible injury, now he's probably out for the rest of the season, maybe the Euros because of a back injury. I don't think what the fans are thinking in terms of
Jamie, the United fan,
over,
getting there.
let's go cup over league. I just think it's more the fact that he didn't want to risk him just injury, just full stop, rather than resting him for a specific game.
Yeah.
Where's your confidence, Harry?
What in Ings' fitness?
Yes.
Well, he's had injury concerns before, hasn't he? I think
True.
it's sensible the amount of goals he's got this year, and that you got to say he's still on really good form. The fact that I think it's the last 2 that he hasn't actually directly got a goal in, but he's still a presence.
He is
and
a
even
present.
if he isn't on the goals, you got to say,
the present to me.
yeah. If he's not directly impacting the game, he's making those runs and stuff like that and dragging that space. And if 2 centre backs are following him, it leaves space for Long, even if he can't, find the back of the net, which we'll cover later on.
Yeah,
we'll do that's a little look ahead to Tottenham, but we'll do a preview to that as well. So probably Thursday or Friday, keep an eye out for that, and we'll do a little preview to the game as well. So yeah, if you are interested in our thoughts on the upcoming Spurs game, then have a listen. So do you want to go minute by minute, or moment by moment?
That would take quite a long time.
It would take quite a long time.
Moment, Ollie, let's go for it. Tizard, what would you say is the first highlight of the game?
Well, probably the Czech Tosin miss, to be honest with you.
Yeah, go for it then. Talk us through it then.
Vestergaard's obviously pondered on. Well, not obviously. That sounds harsh. He's pondered on the ball, probably about 18th minute mark. It's been snatched off him, but I believe by Czech Tosin, who's ran towards
Jordan Ayew got on. He nicked the ball off him, and it fell to Czech Tosin.
He nicked the ball and played it to Czech Tosin, who blasted it over. And after his obviously goal against Manchester City, I'm quite surprised that he didn't have that level of composure. But what I'm glad to see is Højbjerg. I don't know if you see, but he sprints onto the line, so he sort of helps McCarthy in covering the goal, adds that pressure. But that also sort of leaves Ayew in space. So if he maybe squared that across, that's maybe a simpler finish. But that was a real let off, and one that we're probably expecting. Our defenders normally have one very iffy moment in the game, and thankfully we got it over very quickly.
Yeah. Do you think that's a bit just the nerves of Vestergaard coming into the side?
It's just a lack of match sharpness. To be honest, it's not. It is his fault for making the mistake, but also if you don't get the minutes, that's what's going to happen at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a combination of both.
Yeah, there we go. So I was just reading on Twitter, and apparently the Palace fans were shouting "kick him in the face" to Ward-Prowse 6 minutes in. I mean, there we go.
See it
yeah, we know who got the last laugh. So yeah, we said about the chance there. I think the next thing has got to be the injury to Cedric, because that is quite a defining moment in the game. And if you're looking at that, and you've got to say early substitution. So Cedric came off for Romeu, pushing Ward-Prowse out to that right back. And you got to say it is a important part of the game because it changed our style completely, didn't it? Overall, you wouldn't think it made too much of an impact from the final result, but it did alter the tactics early, didn't it? You saw Ward-Prowse come in that position and Romeu fill him. How did you think Romeu did in filling that defensive midfielder, that pivoting to in front of the defence role?
Because I didn't hear his name in the commentary, he did fantastically doing his job well. If you're a midfielder and you don't hear his name being said, that means he's not done anything wrong.
No, and it's interesting as well where people were criticising Romeu for kind of being a bulldozer in midfield and not being as comfortable in possession that we need him to be in that role. But it seemed like a clean sheet, 2-0 lead. He is a good enough replacement, I assume, for an early substitution and a change in tactics, I guess. So,
Mikey, who scores Maidman? What were the Romeu statistics?
Go for it, Mikey.
Oh God.
I can get up.
Come on, guys. Phil,
Whilst he goes through
Phil.
that, the right
Go on.
back change, Ward-Prowse taking him out the midfield, that could have been quite big because normally he's not fantastic at playing that right wing back position. And that's where, if he got booked early on, like I've put in the article that I wrote for Saints March, and that was a big moment in the Wolves game, and that could have been a big moment if he got booked in this one early on as well. But thankfully, he stayed away from the referee's cards.
Yeah. Who's that?
Ward-Prowse.
Oh, right, yeah, fair play.
So Romeu had 2 tackles, 6 aerial duels, 2 dribbles of the ball, 76% passing accuracy, and a 7.461 rating by WhoScored.com.
And that's why we're not
obviously-
selling him to Celta Vigo.
When you came on the pitch, I mean, you know exactly what you're going to get with Romeu. He's going to be that tough tackler. He's not going to let anyone pass him. He's going to get a booking. So
It's quite a statement as well from Ralph to say both Romeu and Vestergaard have been linked away in this January, and they've both played today and came out in a victory and a clean sheet. You got to say they've been linked away, and they're players that aren't getting the game time. But when they have come in, they haven't made a necessarily negative impact or a weakness into the side. It just shows the confidence that they've got in the system, and if you're willing to work hard, then it comes off properly. It seems.
I think it also shows that it's not just the starting 11 that want to play, it's the entire squad. Because sometimes you get that way, the starting 11 have the support for the manager, but the rest of the squad don't want to play. It shows just how determined the entire squad is to do well, play well, perform at the highest potential that they actually have.
Definitely.
With Vestergaard coming in wanting to prove himself, Romeu coming on doing well. Obafemi apparently had probably the best performance he's had in a Southampton shirt tonight too. So it's fantastic to see that the squad depth is there, even though it does seem like we're a little bit shallow sometimes. The squad depth is there to step in and replace just in case.
And lastly, on the Cedric injury, does this cause for concern later on in the season? If we don't know how severe this injury is, but we can safely assume he's not going to be playing for the Spurs game. Is Ward-Prowse going to be put in that role again, or is it an early call for Valerie, or is Ward-Prowse too pivotal in the CDM role for him to be taken out? How does this get played, do you reckon?
Well,
I think by Thursday, by our next podcast recording, we'll know how along the line the Walker Peters or Mahaley transfer are. That's probably when we'll know how big an effect it has. But it'll be interesting to see, like you said, how long Cedric's out for. Because if he is out for the Tottenham game and Valerie's a bit iffy, it will have to be Ward-Prowse that steps into that role.
well, let's just hope Valerie's illness clears up, boys.
Yeah.
Maybe Magic and he's perfectly fine now. He's the first team.
I think he might be. Well, see, I don't know. Does anyone actually know this illness that he's got that he's had for 2 or 3 months? Because me and Jamie have been throwing the air quotation marks whenever this injury word gets called. But yeah,
I don't know what it was, but apparently it was just really, really bad, and he just took a long time to go over it. And the problem is you don't want him to come back too quickly because he might get it again, or he might give it to someone else in the squad, and you just don't want that to happen. So it may be like a month or 2 months that he's been out, but that's probably the safest thing to do instead of having him back. And then Tottenham had that like food poisoning before their big game to try and get into the Champions League 10 years ago or so. So you don't want that to happen, to have like a squad sickness straight away.
Allegedly, that might have been a different situation. Allegedly.
No, it's not allegedly.
But,
they got food poisoning from the
they
hotel.
did get food poisoning, but yeah, it's a alleged tampering and things like that.
Alleged how they got.
Yeah, that's what we're
food
talking about.
poisoning.
Yeah. But hey, we'll leave the
But
conspiracy theories.
we've got cover there. Like we can always bring in. Stevens has done a job at right back before. Yoshida's had a job at right back before. Danso could probably play at right back too. So there's 3 players there until Valerie gets back. Ward-Prowse is showing it. Højbjerg could probably play there too. So we've got lots of players.
Højbjerg can play anywhere. Just chuck him in goal.
He played left back against Fulham. He can play right back as well. So it's fine. We've got players to do it. And as long as they're coached and told what to do well, then that we should be fine.
And lucky for us, we have good coaches. So
hopefully we'll have an indication on what happens with that. Mike, as always, keeps up to date with the press conferences.
I love the comment from Jamie saying like we have good coaches. When I think about 3 months ago, we were
we were
coaches.
I never was. You lot, not me.
Yeah, well, we're
Right
very,
back, boys.
yeah, we could change, our opinions change like the wind sometimes. But hey, it's like most Saints fans, isn't it? You only have to look at the Saints FC hashtag on Twitter to see how quickly opinions change.
Okay.
But hey, let's move on to the next thing. It's got to be Redmond goal next thing, isn't it, really? I can't think of anything else between us then.
Surely. The absolute thunderbolt.
Yeah.
Past Guaita.
Beautiful, yeah. It's Redmond back at his best, or certainly getting towards where we saw him to the tail end of last season. Comfortable with the ball, close control to his feet, spinning his man, getting it out of his feet, and finding that kind of power side foot that we know he can kind of do. He did it at Huddersfield last game of the season, where he hits it so hard that he gets that dip on it, but still finds the back of the net. And it's that beautiful balance between the accuracy and the control of a side foot, but the power and the unpredictability of a laces shot. He kind of interbreeds them together, and it works, and it found the back of the net. A beautiful goal, and one to really celebrate to break that Palace deadlock.
I think the best bit about that goal is the sound the ball makes when it cracks the back of the net.
Yeah.
That is the
Satisfying.
most satisfying noise you can get when smacking a ball.
Yeah,
And
if you've got 30 seconds free, go on the Sky Sports highlights, just smack it up to full volume and hear that. It's like a chink, isn't it? And they mix it up louder, so it literally like, oh man, that's
It's either that or the silence of Selhurst Park.
Yeah.
And you know that Redmond has always got that in his locker. It's whether he's got the confidence to do it or not. And over the last couple of games, he has been building in confidence. Against Wolves, he was running at players, and it's fantastic that now he's actually got an end product to one of his runs. He's very well to hold off the centre back, turn him, hold off the other one running in, and then just crack it past Guaita, who I think in the home game had a fantastic game, saved a lot of volleys of shots. This one, he was getting nowhere near.
No.
It was fantastic. And I think statistically, he's the best goalkeeper in the league at the moment.
Yeah,
so smacking it past him, it was an absolute blind.
Yeah, lovely.
Also,
I
if
heard
you
the
look at,
sound. It was lovely.
I think Jack Stevens once again with a delightful chips ball over the top into Redmond's path, who obviously, like you said, held off. I think he's probably got more assists than Ozil this season, which is relatively impressive.
Jack Stevens is on my fancy bench.
Oh dear.
But once again, Jack Stevens showing his confidence in passing and that he would fit perfectly into Gareth Southgate's England setup. That probably is.
We all want this as our Jack 2020. Let's go, boys.
The thing is with Jack Stevens is it's sort of like a curse and a blessing having his confidence out the back, because sometimes it goes as fantastically as it's shown. Sometimes it just doesn't work, but it's over the last couple of months he's definitely cut out the mistakes that he has been making. He is making better decisions, and it's fantastic. He's got a goal and 3 assists in 15 appearances for a centre back, which is incredible contribution up top.
Yeah, and we've got 4 clean sheets in our last 7 games. I've just counted up the fixtures there. That's pretty impressive to where we were to now. A pretty solid defensive line now, getting clean sheets like that. You got to say, a noticeable performance and improving as we go along.
Yeah.
Right. Next update. There was a couple of I think it was good chances that we had. We won't go into too much detail, but Redmond and Armstrong making quite a good impact. Redmond, again, full of confidence, especially after that goal that he's put in the back of the net. Getting down the line, beating his man and putting it across. And Armstrong, a couple of times, had good opportunities. One got saved by the keeper. Go on, hand up.
It was Ryan Bertrand on the overlap. Redmond had it. He's flicked off to Bertrand. Bertrand got down the line and smacked it.
Someone's watching the highlights.
No, I'm not watching the highlights. This is all from memory.
Oh,
he just knows. Mikey just knows.
Yeah, okay, but there was another one where Redmond got down the line and got it to Armstrong as well, which is interesting to see how.
That's copyright.
We'll get struck down now. Hey, but yeah, again, it's good to see that overlapping play that we, so like to see. It seems so simple, but when it actually comes off, it's a really nice and exciting way to play football as well. Getting it across the box, and we know. We're not a Burnley. We're not going to be smacking the crosses in every day, but they're low, they're hard, and we're going to try and find the people on the back of them. And you've got Longer. We know he can get in the air if he needs to, but also he can scrabble around and try and find the back of the net. Obafemi as well has got a good little poacher's instinct on him as well. So putting those balls across the box, trying to find someone on the end of them.
I think it also sort of shows the importance of Ryan Bertrand still. in the fact that he's still very important in that overlap. Because if we're going to play narrow wingers that want to cut inside, we're going to need 2 fullbacks that want to get forward. And Bertrand, if he's on form and if he's actually concentrating, he's a fantastic fullback, and he can put a good ball in, as he showed with the one for Armstrong.
Yeah, and a couple of good chances. I can't think of too many on note. If you guys then feel free to jump in, but we have those. It's quite an open game where there is chances either side, but we are demonstrating our ability to be dangerous. Is there any other opportunity that jump out to you before we get into half time?
Not in the first half.
In the first half, it literally was the Redmond goal. That Stuart Armstrong sort of, kind of, not too sure.
Yeah.
The second half and first half ended.
That's all the highlights.
That's the highlights. We're trying to go into a little bit more detail than the 2-minute highlight.
That's the highlights. But what are you on about, mate?
I think we just dominated the game in general. I think Adam Blackmore and Dave Merrington used a phrase that I wasn't a big fan of, saying that we murdered the Crystal Palace players in the first half, or something to that extent, which I thought was a bit brutal. But we did just dominate the game, as you saw by the full-time statistics, especially that they didn't have a shot on target. We just dominated the game. We didn't have that many chances because, not in a weird way, but we didn't need to. We didn't need to have loads of chances. We didn't have to force the ball forwards because they weren't causing any danger to us past the 18th minute.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it now. I'm going to use Mikey's who scored, but Martin Kelly, I mentioned him as possibly a potential weakness with Redmond down the left. You guys said, oh, he's still a good player, but he was voted the second worst player for Palace today. So
who's the worst?
Toussaint with a 5.8, who, you know, he had a couple of chances, but with no shots on target, and you're the only striker for Palace, it's going to potentially damage your rating, isn't it? So, but you got to say, Redmond was really effective today, and Kelly didn't have the best of games, so it was, you know, a nice little match there for us to have a dominating side down the left as well. Armstrong picking the pieces from the right as well. It looked a really, really dominating performance today. Right, so we said getting to half time. Little scrap between Zaha and Ward-Prowse. I didn't actually pick this up first time. I had to look on Twitter for what actually happened, which is
a poke in the eye.
It looked like a poke in the eye, a kind of push poke kind of thing from Zaha. Apparently VAR looked at it but saw no foul play in it. I'm not sure about that. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Is it out of
It should be a booking, but it just shows that Zaha just gets annoyed very easily, if nothing else. To be honest. And
you got to say the Saints players all did well to keep Zaha in the kind of right level of, because it was at the right places. He's known to kind of fire up and try and prove a point, but today they just niggled him to where he couldn't quite get into the game. You know, double teaming him to make sure he doesn't have that space, and little fouls that aren't going to get the booking but are going to hold and impede his progress. It was played well. Mikey, sorry I cut you off.
I was just looking through Kalinakis' tweets, and there's a lot of moments where it's saying like, oh, James Ward-Prowse body checks and Stevens clears it up. Romeu's pushed him in the back. Armstrong's body checks him. So I think it was just a little bit. It wasn't just Ward-Prowse. It was the entire squad were sort of ganging up on Zaha. I think we did that with Adama Traore in the first half effectively, but not in the second half. It seems like what we're doing is we're picking that one key man and just bullying him so that he doesn't get into the game.
Yeah, very true. Coming out of half time, is there anything that you can kind of think of before I do want to get onto it?
It was the sort of thing where we've only scored one in a game that we've dominated, and teams, if they've been dominating the first half, they normally get a rocket from their manager to play differently in the second half. We didn't especially see. We didn't. Yeah, we saw at the Wolves game. We were 2-0 up, but if we had a third, that's probably game over at that point. There's a lot of games, obviously, because we've conceded 42 points on winning positions in the last 2 seasons, where we should have probably scored more. If we scored more, that points total would have decreased quite heavily. So at 1-0 against a dangerous Palace side, you always had a worry that they could get back into it, especially with their key players, Tosin, Zaha, and others as well.
Yeah, it's very true. Like, I do feel sometimes concerned that we don't make the impact that we can do before half time, just because, you know, they have 15 minutes to kind of reconsider and get their game back. That's the one thing that kind of throws me off. So coming into the second half, how confident were you that we could go and kill this game and keep control of it? Or were you a little concerned that the half time will kind of become a different ballpark and Palace will come out fighting. What do you reckon?
I think we all admit we had that nerves, especially after like I said, I mentioned a second ago, the Wolverhampton game. We were 2-0 up at half time. They came back and won 3-2. I think the players definitely had that in their heads, but they had the determination not to let that happen to them once again. I think sometimes it's going to sound a bit weird, but it's good to have these reality checks in our season. I think our players would have got a bit too ahead of themselves, to be completely honest with you. So in a way, I'm glad we lost to Wolves. But as I said, I think I was nervous second half because, like I said, 2-0. But I'm glad that we came back. I'm 1-0, sorry, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
1-0. The shot on some goals scared me.
Yeah. I don't think you're glad that we lost to Wolves, but you're glad the lesson.
Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
The lesson that we learned from Wolves that we've taken forward and applied today, that's the really positive thing that we saw.
I always look at the first 15 minutes. If a side has come out in the first 15 minutes and really gone at it, even if they haven't like really taken a shot or had a chance, that's when it's worrying, because you know that side is like lifted up. If they get nothing in that first 15 minutes, then you know you practically won the game. And it didn't take us 15 minutes; it took us 4.
And we see, and it's a Redmond assist. It's kind of come in. Armstrong finds a space again. That side foot that curls. He looks like he's aiming it up for the kind of near post and that curler, but he almost gets it across and wrong foots the keeper. And it's a really nice finish. And again, Armstrong getting on the score sheet. We know he scored belters. His hair's fine. I mean,
he does it all the time.
Yeah, he's made his mark on this team now, and it's his to keep up and it's his to continue. If he keeps this form and keeps having these good games, then he's going to keep down that place. The fact that we saw at Celtic, he's getting regular first team football, putting in the goals and controlling that midfield. And now he's starting to do that for Saints. Like I made a wild prediction that he was going to be our player of the season at the start. So I almost kind of root for him so I don't become embarrassed, basically. But I did see that potential in him. I knew he was going to be a good player that's going to come into our side. And if he did get the game time and make his impact that he could possibly do, we knew he could make a good change to this side, and that adds that little bit different that we're looking for. I know, Mikey, you were saying earlier on this season, especially with the losses that came in, we need a player that can find that final pass and things like that. But I think in this style, he does his role perfectly. He's not going to be a pace demon down the side. He's going to be someone who finds that pass and's got a good eye for reading the game. And rewarded with a goal. Your guys' thoughts on the goal?
It may be a little early to say because, again, he's only just come back into the team.
Yes. Good one, Tazard.
What a fantastic signing Armstrong is. Like, £7 million. Like, usually with players like this, you look at Maddison, and Maddison's been talking about 60 million. But Armstrong, he does quite a similar role in that way without the free kick taken. And he's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's £7 million, and he just offers a different option. And that's what we need on that right-hand side. We've got a quick little nippy player that likes to cut inside. And now we've got a lad who can find the pass. Not exactly the quickest player, but he makes it up with the way that he travels with the ball, how he runs with it. He's got a fantastic finish on him as well.
Yeah.
He scored he scored that fantastic goal against Fulham last year, one against Man United too. So, and then Leicester as well. So he's got a shot on him, and it's fantastic to see that he's got the confidence now. Both Redmond and Armstrong have got confidence now of taking a smack from 20 yards and having a feeling that it's going to go in.
Oh yeah, and now that confidence is going to barrel onto the strikers, who are going to get that confidence and that change of style and all the different positives of good form now coming onto the strikers. Now they're going to get the balls and reception and things like that. And you got to say again, we got 2 goals from midfield, but our strikers did really well, and Shane Long had chances as well, which he could have possibly put in the back of the net. We'll get onto that very soon. Next kind of thing from that, again, like you said, Mikey, showing a real good determination coming out of that second half. Within 4 minutes, we've already found the back of the net again for a very good strike. Yeah, I'm just looking through highlights. It's basically just James Ward-Prowse Zaha saga, but it was very entertaining to watch. If you can watch the highlights, go and do it, because we won't do it justice. You know what you're going to see. You're going to see Ward-Prowse and Zaha going at it. Ward-Prowse having that determination, gritting his teeth, and really doing himself proud today. I put it on the Twitter at Saints My Pod that the battle between Ward-Prowse and Zaha, the way that he's at a position, he's in basically a right back position. I was going to say right wing back, but it is a right back position. Something he's not entirely comfortable with, but the fact that he can still take how much is he? £80 million they're looking at for him.
Yeah.
Winger out of the game completely, and shutting down that Palace left-hand side. It's a real credit to him, and he was probably easily the best or second best player in the team today. You got to say, for what he did really well, really, really well. So yeah,
I think that's also credit to Ralph too. Like, he has these systems, he has these plans back up. Like, if you said that Ward-Prowse was going to play right back for us even like a year, 2 years ago, you're thinking, what the hell is going on? He's playing attacking midfielder at the moment. But for Ward-Prowse to be able to just slot in there at right back, know exactly what he's doing, and does his job fantastically well. Like, I think that's credit to both the player and the manager for coaching him right, and the player being able to adapt during the game.
Coaching him right back, you could say.
Okay, that's the end of the podcast. So.
That's almost as worse as the Tizard one a couple of weeks ago. The next big chance, I'm sorry I have to do this to you, Mikey, but Shane Long finds a good space in the middle. Obafemi with a brilliant little almost flick to get it past the last man. Shane Long finds himself pretty much on the penalty spot and has his pick of corners, but ends up finding the keeper down the middle. I've had a look at it a couple of times. I can't quite work out.
I can't explain it.
I can't work out what he's trying to do.
He thinks he's slightly off centre, because
I don't realise it.
I don't know.
I was
looking at it, and it wasn't the keeper doesn't really kind of like the Schmeichel one where Danny Ings scores, where he doesn't starfish almost like we saw with the Schmeichel one. So I'm not too sure what he was actually trying to do with the ball. It basically went dead centre, really. He didn't open his body out. He didn't go across. He just kind of laid it down the middle. I think he realised he had a lot more time than he thought, and he could have not take a touch, but he could have definitely slowed down and picked his corners. And yeah, it's just that one part of Shane Long's game that he didn't, can't quite find. Have you guys got any guesses what happened?
I don't know if he thinks he's slightly off centre, maybe because he hasn't looked up before he's had that shot. I don't know if he thinks he's slightly off centre. Maybe he's tried to tuck it in the corner. He's looked up and realised he's dead centre in the goal. But Shane Long doesn't score easy goals. Like, this is things we know. Shane Long does not score an easy goal. So, we just got to wait for him to be 35 yards out, and he can curl into the top corner, and everything will be fine again.
We do have Aston Villa in a couple of weeks' time.
Exactly.
So there we go.
Shane Long's to break Mane's record-breaking hat-trick, okay? You watch this space.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on it.
It first, boys.
So, yeah, after the Shane Long chance, first substitution, really. It was a game with in the second half, there wasn't too many clear cuts, was there? Is there anything else between? Oh, okay, yeah. So, my bad, I wasn't thinking about that.
First intended substitution.
Yeah, sure. We'll go for that. That makes me sound better. It was Shane Long for Danny Ings. So now Danny Ings coming off the bench. The last thing you want to see is the Palace centre backs probably not feeling great. Wait, why are you petrified for Danny Ings coming on?
I was petrified because it only takes one bad challenge from a Palace player to get him injured for a few weeks, and it wasn't really a game that we needed. I know it's good to keep players ticking over, get them minutes, but it only needed one, overstretch, one bad challenge for a Palace player, and then it's a needless injury for Danny Ings. So that was my concern when he came on.
I think the perfect example was Rashford in the Cup. Like, he didn't have to come on against Wolves. There was no need for him to come on. He still came on, got injured about 5 minutes later, and he's now out for 3 months. So it's like a bit like that. You want Danny Ings to play because you want to keep this form up. You want to keep him ticking over. But then again, you don't want him to go in for a stupid challenge and James Tompkins to go 6 feet over the top and smack him in the head with his boot or something like that. You don't want that to happen. So. And crazier things have happened than that.
How would you differ the substitution then, Tiz? What would you say at that point? Because I think in Ralph's eyes, he's thinking, get it to 3-0 and the game's done. How would you do it? What changes would you make instead?
Well, if he had, he obviously has confidence with the team, but Palace didn't have a sign of coming back into the game. I would have just done a like-for-like with Che Adams maybe, and then maybe later in the game took Obafemi off for either Djenepo or Boufal and put Redmond up top with Che Adams. There's no real need to put him on. In my opinion,
he's definitely, because he took off Shane Long, didn't he? And you got to say Shane Long has played a lot of games because that's it's respect of his recent performances. So you got to say maybe possibly we mentioned Danny Ings getting dropped for the game to make sure he stays fit, but possibly with Shane Long as well. You got to say if he's going to be doing all these games in this recent Christmas form where we've hit form, possibly you want to keep him fresh for the Tottenham game where we'll need him.
So put Che on instead.
And I'd
Yeah,
also
true.
argue that it would make more tactical sense as well putting Adams on for Long instead of Ings, because
That's
I
true,
think
actually. You get
Adams
that target
and Long
man.
play
Yeah.
a lot similar way, and I think Obafemi and Ings are quite similar in that way too. So I would have thought that Adams would have gone on for Long, and it would also have given him, I think, 20 odd minutes to actually make an impact instead of the usual 5 that he gets. So that
Yeah.
might have been a little bit more confidence boosting for Adams too. But
And
yeah,
then you would have seen that Adams and Obafemi pairing that we saw at Chelsea. Am I right? Is that right?
and that was successful at Chelsea too. So.
Yeah.
So, yeah, possibly
2-0.
there's one change there. But, yeah, thankfully, Ings didn't pick up anything. He did keep ticking over. Upset for fantasy managers because they only got 20 minutes out of him without a goal. So people are going to be disappointed with that. But,
Got
hey,
to take him out.
let's not talk about
I don't
fantasy.
know.
Let's talk about Saints.
And
Next,
people who bench Jack Stevens. Ugh.
yeah, who would do that, Jamie? Who would do that?
9 points I lost here today, boys.
Hey, it's all right. There's a 2-0 win, clean sheet, plenty of things to be happy about.
I'm not
Jamie.
happy. No.
Well, come on.
He wanted that guy to clean sheet. That's what he wanted.
That's Michael for me, mate.
Oh,
Anything else to? Because the next thing I'm thinking is the substitution again for. We've already previously mentioned it. The like for like Adams for Obafemi. Is there anything between those two that you can kind of think of? It is kind of a
Connor
foul.
Wickham
I
put
like
one into
the
Rose
aggression.
Ed.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, like you said, no shot on target. Palace didn't really look very threatening, did they? They rely on their defence, don't they? Go on, Tiz.
I saw a tweet and it was I think it was one of the reporters for the South London area in Crystal Palace. He was like, Danny Ings is getting subbed on for Southampton and it's Connor Wickham for Crystal Palace, and it didn't say anything. He didn't directly say, look at this comparison, but it was just a sort of like, look who's coming off the bench for Southampton and look at the squad depth and injury problems that Palace had.
Yeah.
And I think that level of frustration was slightly coming out in his tweet.
Yeah.
I think it just sort of shows they've played 24 games in the Premier League this year and scored 22 goals. Like, they're not a goal-scoring team. If they score a goal, it's their defence that they rely on really well. And I think another stat is that Palace hadn't conceded a goal outside of this 18-yard box until today, and they've conceded twice. So it could be something tactical that way. I think they played a different system to what they usually did play. I think, and yeah, they definitely missed Milivojevic in that central holding it down. They missed that definitely.
Who did they have in that hole? They had MacArthur, who again, didn't have a great game.
It's not the same presence as
McCarthy
Milivojevic
and
has.
James McCarthy as well.
Yeah, in that kind of but you got to say they got 5 in midfield, so to change it up, they have really got to go for it. They really rely on their defensive solidity, and then either take the draw or snatch a goal. So once they've got 2 in, the plan B is kind of scuppered for them, really, isn't it? Because they can't really throw all hell's loose at it. It doesn't really work for them. So fair play. We found the way to get past it and got our reward today. Any other kind of things before the final whistle? Obviously, it kind of petered out a little bit. There was a counter attack for who got on the end of it. Let me have a look. Redmond breaks away. I think it was from a Palace attack. I don't know whether it's a corner or just them high up the pitch, but Redmond kind of collects it and runs a fair distance with it. I don't know if you guys remember this. Yeah, that's it, right? Ings kind of comes to Ings, and the chance doesn't quite come to. I think there's a block or it kind of goes wide, but the last kind of chance that I really remember of that was Redmond coming down and letting in Ings. And I think also Adams had a good touch for Ings, but he was just slightly offside again. Those are 2 kind of chances I remember. Anything else like that?
I think there was one also where Ings could have I think the ball came across and Ings could have laid it back off to Adams one more to that in that direction, but I think he had the shot instead. And I think Adams was in the better position, but obviously Ings in the form he wants to take the chance off himself. And I think as much as Adams might be frustrated, I think he'd also understand that a striker wants to score as many goals as possible, especially when you've got a 2-0 lead. That level of selfishness, fair enough to an extent.
Yeah, that's very true. So any other thing, final whistle goes, any other kind of final summaries? I know we gave our main thoughts on it at the start, but going ahead now into Tottenham, confidence again is going to go back on a high. We've beaten Tottenham before, and we will cover this in the preview, but what's the game plan now? We've got to try and go as far as we can in the Cup. Do we have to rest to keep the do we have to try and keep the form going in the league? Do we just try and keep going as much as we can while we've got the confidence? How's Ralph going to play it? Is there going to be any changes? What do you reckon?
Easy dub.
Easy dub.
Brilliant.
Damn. Okay.
Brilliant.
Mourinho's stress. We're going to take advantage.
Go for it.
They have no strike.
We go
Yes.
into that game favourites, I feel.
Really?
I know it's
Wow.
odd, but we've got an extra day rest. They don't have Harry Kane, and they've got a poor record at St Mary's. We'll go into it more, obviously, in the preview. But overall, I just think this time last year, we had half the mental strength that we do now. I think we're a lot stronger mentally. We have a high chance of keeping at Leeds when we have it. I know we have conceded, as you see from the Wolves game this season, from leading positions, but I think there's just a higher chance that we do keep Leeds. And that was shown today. Although we do have a good record at Selhurst Park, in fact, so it might not have been any different anyway.
Yeah. And we're obviously out of the League Cup, I don't know the actual sponsor it's called at the moment, but yeah, the League Cup. Carabao, yeah, that's the one.
Carabao.
It's always the Carling for me, is how I remember it, but I know that's not right. That's about 10 years old.
Capital One.
God, it wasn't
so
one.
many.
Christ, that was bad. But yeah, so
wanted to scrap that competition to focus more on league games.
who was that? Sorry, mate.
Came out of the press and saying, let's scrap it.
Yeah, and well, we're in the FA Cup at the moment. That's a good point, actually. How seriously is Ralph taking this? Is he going to go as far as he can, and try and do the best in both ones, or if push comes to shove, will he favour the league? What's the importance to him? What do you reckon?
Would you boys rather him push for league and get Europa League football? But at the same time, if we did that, we could risk being a Burnley, for example. They're at the start of the season.
Yeah, it's true.
I was just
Burnley are a one-trick pony, though. They can only play one style, whereas I think we've got a lot more different ways that we can play. I think we've just got a better squad in general. But I think with the FA Cup, if we were near the relegation zone, I think he'd take it less seriously. But now we're in the top 10. We're above Arsenal.
Yeah.
I feel that he'll take this as seriously, especially now I feel we've got the squad depth off of this performance and previous ones as well.
That's very true. So what would be successful for you in the Cup then? Would you say you set us as favourites for the top?
It's difficult because although I say we're favourites, and obviously I'm very overconfident, I think we could give Liverpool a good game, but that's a couple previews time. Yeah. It depends. If we get past Tottenham, then it's difficult to say in cup competitions because you don't know who you're going to get in the next round. We could get Shrewsbury if they go through, but we could also get Liverpool if they go through after Tottenham. Yeah. So it's just a game by game basis, to be honest with you.
I think, to be honest, I'm pretty happy where you think if we got past Tottenham and got top 10, I'd be pretty happy with that. I think that's a successful season on Ralph's end. And especially with the form we've picked up as well, you've got to say it's as far as we want to go, really. If we want to go all guns blazing for the FA Cup, we can go all out. Or if we want to rest a couple and still maintain the form in the league, we can do that as well and try and get the best we can at Liverpool and do ourselves proud. But yeah, like you say, that's a couple previews in ahead. We'll do most likely released Friday. But the best way to keep in contact with that is through the Twitter, which is at Saints Prime Pod. Have a look on there. We've got transfer news, commentary on the games, things that come up. So anything that comes up, press conference and things like that. Try and put the most information on there for you. And like I say, when a podcast does go live, you'll get direct links to your favourite podcasting platform, so you can go and listen to it on there and get the one that you want to. And also we'll do questions for it as well. We really enjoy the questions that get sent in to us. So
I've completely forgot about that. We forgot about the match reaction
we didn't do
on the Instagram. We'll just
never mind, boys.
We'll fly through.
Quickly do them.
Just one or two. Is it
so? Yeah, go for it.
Goes up. So if you want to get your match reactions in after the game, just go to the Saints Prime. It's Ollie normally reminds me.
Sorry,
so
mate. I'm sorry, man.
Yes, blame Ollie, mate. It wasn't even his responsibility.
Mate, we've done like 50 of these, all right? Like, it's literally.
Boys, come on. We're gonna reel them off. Yes, we're gonna reel them off. No, I'll help you out with them. You get up some, I'll help you out.
We'll go through a few. So _Stephen_William said Zaha equals a clown.
Yeah.
A bit harsh. Can we play away every week? Says Josh.Allen.
Yes,
11. Just what we need. Not far off of Europe now. Steve_Roussel. More impressed by the defensive effort. Tom_Perry 233 and one more stunning performance from the lads without Ings. Max.Setchell.
Thank you, Matt, for your
Well, thank you anyone for that. And sorry we did leave those till late. We normally do them first, but it just escaped us on this one.
Harry
we do
forgot.
we do it straight
Apologies.
after. That's why we want to try and get that authenticity. So there is sometimes mistakes sometimes. But hey, it doesn't matter. You know where to catch us. On the Twitter, on the Instagram. So yeah, make sure you're tuned in to the next episode for Spurs, which is the FA Cup preview. So yeah, see you then. It's been me, Ollie. I've also been joined by
The legendary Jamie.
Harry.
and
kick off.
Mikey.
Mikey. Thank you very much for listening, guys. We'll see you for the next one. Take it easy. Up the Saints. Keep the faith.